Hello, and welcome to another episode of Across the Dinerverse, searching for the heart and soul of America, one diner at a time. How you doing? I'm John Murphy, writer and producer on the TV series Innovation Nation, which airs Saturday mornings on CBS. But now I bounce across the country, talking to people over sausage, egg, and cheese biscuits, tuna melts, and chocolate chip waffles, which I love. And I talk about people's lives, their city, their effed up kids, how they feel about the country. Are we good? Not so good. Maybe a little wobbly. I don't know. You tell me. Now, just to give you an update, so far I have visited diners and recorded podcasts in California, Florida, Virginia, Utah, Wyoming, Colorado, Hawaii, and Arizona, where this week's episode originates. Now, I'd like to do a podcast from at least one diner in all 50 states. And if you'd like to help finance that goal, you can visit my Patreon page at patreon.com/Dinerverse and become a patron for as little as $3. Yeah. And then you can send me questions to ask future podcast guests. You can get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and content like my 3 questions segment, where I turn the tables and let my guests ask me 3 questions that I have to answer whether I want to or not. Now, for higher tiers, you could, add me as a reference on your resume. With zero guarantee I'll land you that highly coveted job. But who knows? I might. And a huge thank you to Keith Stewart in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and Colin Meisner in Lakeland, Florida, for becoming the latest patrons on this little podcast. This week's episode originates from Rick's Kitchen in Yuma, Arizona, a town on the Arizona, California, and Mexico border, sitting across the Colorado River from the city of Algodones in the state of Baja California, Mexico. And maybe you've seen the classic 1957 Western film 3:10 to Yuma, based on a short story by Elmore Leonard and starring Glenn Ford.
There is a lonely train called the 3:10 to Yuma. The pounding of the wheels is more like a mournful sigh.
Oh, there you go. The movie was remade in 2007 with Russell Crowe and Christian Bale. And I think it was pretty damn good. Now, Yuma normally has 97,000 full-time residents, but during the winter months in North America, it explodes to over 250,000 people with what are called snowbirds, the mass migration of older retirees from frozen tundra states like Michigan and Minnesota, as well as Canada. And Yuma is also a final destination for thousands of migrants heading here from other countries in Central and South America. But more on that a little bit later. First, let's hear from the man who opened this place on kind of a whim. So you're the Rick of Rick's Kitchen.
Correct.
How did you choose this location in Yuma, Arizona to open up a diner?
Well, it was COVID. We were in the fair industry all my life, so soon as COVID hit...
So wait, hold on a second. So you had a whole different career before you opened up a diner?
Yeah, 57 years in the carnival business.
57 years?
Yeah, my whole life.
In the carnival business?
Yeah.
You were a carny?
All my life, yeah. My father, my grandfather.
You're a family of carnies?
Oh, yeah.
Is that term offensive to you, carny?
Oh, not at all. I mean, any word could be used offensive, right? But carny, it's just, nah.
I've seen carnival people at the state fair and things like that, but I've always been curious about their lives, what kind of lives they lead. What was that? How did you first become a carnival worker?
Well, my father was in it. So he was a single parent with me and my sister.
What did he operate?
He operated carnivals, and he was, you might call him the fixer,
So if a ride broke down, he fixed it?
Not so much.
Oh, a different kind of fixer.
A different kind of fixer. We got any problems on the show? We're talking 50s, 60s, 70s, back when it wasn't as regulated, but let's say that somebody felt that they got taken, and they're upset. I mean, wants to get violent, My dad is going to come in and patch the beef. He's going to fix it,
So if somebody is playing one of the carnival games,
yes,
and they feel like they've been taken for a ride and lost a lot of money,
sure,
and they're raising a stink about it, your dad would kind of smooth it over.
Oh, yeah. I could tell Yes.
Okay, tell me stories.
Okay, I'll tell you a story.
Okay.
My wife, Shirley, we've been married 20 years, right?
Right.
Now,
Did you win her in a prize?
I did, and actually won her mom in a prize. Actually, I got to know Shirley's mom before I actually knew her out on the road. They had carnied out in Texas. They'd come out here. But anyway, after my dad passed away, I would just turn 13. Well, there was a gentleman out there on the road, Red Salters, and Red kind of looked after me. You know what I mean? And I didn't know this till years later. Shirley's stepfather, Robert, and Red were friends. Well, one day I see Red, because I'm living with Red now, and he takes his shirt off, and I see 5 scars on his chest. And I said, Red, what happened to you there? And he said, my friend shot me. I'm like, your friend shot you? He's like, yeah. So years later now, Shirley and I get together.
He had 5 shots in his chest?
Yeah, he got shot 5 times by his friend. And Red was another fixer out there, on the road.
Shot 5 times and lived.
Oh, yeah, by his friend now. He refers to Robert as his friend, but I didn't really know who that was till years later when Shirley and I get married, and we start talking about Shirley's stepfather, Robert, and her stepfather, Robert, is the one that shot Red 5 times.
Wow.
And just, and they were good friends till the day they both passed away. Just carnival stories like that are...
What is life like in the carnival business? I've never met anybody in that business, and you said you were in it for 57 years. That's quite a long haul.
That is a long haul.
Now, tell me what you've done. Now, what does that entail? You would manage carnivals, you would hire people, you'd get the rides. I mean, what does it all mean? How does it all work?
Well, generally, there's generally one person or family that owns the rides, and then you'll have different concessionaires with games and or food, and they're going to come in and book with the carnival. So my dad had done all that. He had owned carnivals, he had managed carnival, he'd been a fixer on the show.
Did you live on the road your whole life?
Out there on the road, it was really kind of tough. There was times my dad would go into a town, he'd put me into school. That event was over. As soon as we got there, next town, he'd enroll me in school, pull me out of school, and that went on for about 4 months till they figured out what was going on.
So you're like in school for 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah, and then you pull out of school and you go to another school.
How did you learn anything?
Well, it wasn't always like that. I met some folks one time. We're out in Colorado, and he met, my sister and I met some 4-H kids. My dad had talked their mother, she was a single parent, her mother, the kid's mother, into allowing my sister and I to go live with them for a while he stayed on the road.
And how long was a while?
Well, I lived in Calexico for 7 months. I mean, I've lived literally all over. He did the best he could, but I've been dropped off with families all over the western United States. I got caught up into the foster system. I was in boys' homes, But adversity builds character.
It sure does.
And I'm full of something, a character, I mean.
It's just such an amazing life, It's you hear about the circus life, and that seems kind of romantic and glamorous, but the carnival life doesn't.
I can remember my first really memories is, we go eat at the cookhouse. The cookhouse is going to be a diner for just the carnival people. And then my dad would drop me off at the goldfish game at 4 years old, right at 4 or 5, and I had to stay there all day long and pick up ping pong balls. Now, if I get tired, I could take a nap under the counter. Don't leave. They'll take you to the bathroom and go get a corn dog. But that was basically the guy that owned the goldfish got free help because I'm going to stand there and, pick up ping pong balls all day. My dad basically got somebody to watch me, so he didn't, he's out there trying to run a show.
I got to say, you're a very happy person for kind of a tough life like that with a father who was really pawning you off on other people the whole time. I mean, did you have a good relationship with your father, or did?
I did, but, attitude is everything. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and I try not to really look behind me too much. You know what I mean? I know where I came from, but you just keep moving forward. And it's just like this place here. Attitude is everything, and I kind of set the tone. You know what I mean? And it is funny. If you smile at somebody, 90% of the people are going to smile back at you. It's all about attitude.
What's the wildest thing you ever saw at a carnival?
I tore out my rotator cuffs because I set the record out there on the road at chain jump rope. That's where you take a big logging chain and you put master locks on the end and you use it to jump rope with.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I set the record on the show 18 times I was able to jump it. So, and then we take the water slide and we just have a ton of fun out there. And you're just, you're seeing some crazy things. You're seeing some of it ain't so good. I mean, it's,
What are some of the things that you've seen that ain't so good?
Well, drug abuse was prevalent out there.
Yeah, okay,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah.
you've seen a lot of that, and as a small kid,
Right.
And, truth be known, I've had my battles myself. Tough times don't last, tough people do.
Amen to that,
Yeah.
because you did it for 57 years. Did you ever think to yourself, I got to get the hell out of this business and do something else?
I never really did. I never thought about it. I just figured, you go out there and you work, you're going to get sick like my father did. They're going to check you in the hospital some places. You're on the road, and the show keeps going on. And my dad passed away with cancer.
Yeah.
I thought I'd be out there the rest of my life. And again, COVID hit. We enjoyed the first year. We thought for sure after a year of this, it's not going to last. We'll be back on the road next year. So we enjoyed a year off. We never had a summer off. Even Shirley as a kid, you work your summers. So we enjoyed it. We had seen this place empty, and we'd always joke, wouldn't it be neat? Wouldn't it be neat? Well,
So you saw this building where we're sitting right now.
Yes.
And it was empty.
Yes.
Did it used to be another restaurant?
it was. Back in the day, it was a chicken on the run, and I'd ate here. Yeah. Yeah.
And so it was shut down.
Yes.
What made you decide that you could do this?
No guts, no glory. You know what I
You
mean?
just said, let's just give it a shot.
Well, what else do we got to venture? If I don't do this, I got to go back out on the road. And what I've realized from opening this place is I never want to go back on the road. I don't. I mean, I just, they say, it's so hard to run a restaurant compared to what I did.
It's not.
Standing on my head. Yeah. And my wife, the staff, I'm blessed. And I say that all the time. Take care of the people that take care of you, right? So that means not just the staff, but the people that have gotten behind this little restaurant since I've opened we haven't even been open 2 years. I'm totally blessed, and I don't really know how it happened. I just don't know how this has happened to open a restaurant and been so successful in my opinion.
I am shocked and blown away because when I came here and asked you if we could do a podcast, because you were referred to me. Backstory is my father-in-law owns some RV parks here in Yuma. And I've been doing this podcast for a while called Across the Dinerverse, where I travel to diners all across the country and just interview people about their lives, their community. Never met a Carny before, so this is very exciting.
Yeah.
We're very big for the show. But I'd ask people at these RV parks, where should we go? What diner should I go to? And everybody said Rick's Kitchen, Rick's Kitchen, Rick's Kitchen. So to sit here and talk to you, knowing that you've been open less than 2 years and had zero restaurant experience, and the number of people this place is packed, I am completely blown away, and congratulations to what you've been able to achieve.
Well, thank you.
That's amazing.
Well, teamwork makes the dream work. You just put the right people in the right places, and I've been very fortunate to be able to find the right people. And the people of Yuma and these foothills is just, I'm totally blown away, and I don't know how it happened.
Do you think you would attract even more people if you had a bearded lady gimmick here?
I don't know. I could bring my mom in. Oh, I hope.
When you were on the road as a Carny, did you ever do any of those type of gimmicks? Were there any kind of special freaky people that you came across?
When I was younger, of course, they had the sideshows and all that, you know what I mean? And the one that just as a kid, they had the man eating chicken, right?
No.
Well, you probably want your money back because you're going to step up on the step, look down, and it's going to be a man
Eating chicken.
That's right. We had Doris, the fat lady, out there, and we had, and then they'd sit right at the cookhouse and have breakfast with you. Out there on the road, it's a big family. If you just because you think your dad's not around, somebody else on the show, mother or father, might see you. And so it takes a village to raise a child out there, and it's a
you
big
literally
family.
were raised by a village.
Oh, yeah.
How many carnivals would you do in a season? How many different locations?
How many events?
Yeah, or not? How many different locations would you go to?
35, 40. Out of 52 weeks a year, we're working about 10 months out of the year.
And where would you stay the longest?
The State Fair in California is about a 3-week event. By the time you go in there and prior to setting up, so you're probably there about 5 weeks before, during, and after.
And it's all a cash business, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of cash out there.
So when there's a lot of cash around, that means a lot of people are trying to find ways to take it.
Well, I have a reputation out there on the road that Rick is looking for a fight or a problem every day.
Did you ever operate a ride?
As a young guy, I didn't really want to work the rides. I was looking more into the games because...
Is there really a lot of cheating and graft and corruption going on with those games?
Not anymore. You got to remember, my dad was a fixer, right?
Right.
So back in the day, you bet you there was. And back in the day, you go to a town... as the show's setting up, you might see the local constable or sheriff come by and stop by and see my father, and they might go up into the office and have a drink or two. You know, by the time it's all done, an envelope might get slid across the table, ensuring that there will be no problems here at the fair for you this year, Mr. Scarce. So that's how that kind of works. But as you get into the 70s and 80s, you know, now we've got drug tested, which is awesome. You're getting background checked, which is awesome. You're getting Megan checked for any kind of pedophiles, you know what I mean?
Right.
So it really has come a long way.
Did you ever find out that people with a criminal past were, in fact, hiding out inside your carnival business?
Once in a blue moon, you would maybe find out that somebody was on the run and they tried to hide. Not really so much on any of the shows that I had been on, but I had heard about, you know, a guy tried to hide out at the show. Mostly, like I say, we're family out there, and we hire people from time to time. But generally, you find out what they're about or who they are, and we're going to clean house ourselves, basically, you know.
And would you have the same crew of people from season to season?
Back in the day, we really used to. But now it's not like that. They employ H-2Bs. Are you familiar with the H-2B program?
No.
It's immigrant workers that'll come up from South Africa, Mexico, England. I mean, they just come over from different countries on an H-2B visa, and they'll work for the season, and then they'll go home. We actually have Candace in the back, and she came up from South Africa, and she worked for us on the road. And then her visa expired. Well, she spent 5 years or something trying to get herself straightened out. Now she's got her paperwork, and she's one of the main people that we have, you know, excellent worker.
57 years on the road, working in a carnival, seeing the mass public come through. What did you learn about humanity and how people are?
I believe people are basically are good. I believe that. And like I said, if you smile at somebody, 90% they're going to smile back at you. And, you know, for me, just have fun. I don't really get real political here at Rick's Kitchen. I'm not going to mention the name, but there's other diners up here, and we got a gentleman that has been here since the day we opened. He didn't go to the other place because he didn't like to get caught up in all the political talk over there and the arguing and the bickering, you know. And he says, you know, it's just fun here, Rick. We enjoy coming in. You make us laugh. We leave here feeling good. If I can do that, and if I can make somebody smile and make them feeling good when they're leaving, you know, it makes me happy.
I hear there's a number of immigrants who pass through Yuma, coming up from Mexico, trying to get in the United States. Some say like 1,000 a day through here. Would you hire somebody like that to work here in this kitchen?
No, I don't think I would. I have Candace. She busted her butt to get into this country the right way.
Okay.
Right? And all this stuff that people see, you know what I mean? And it makes her mad. And it kind of makes me mad, so I just can't encourage that, you know what I mean? And I understand these people are looking for a better life, but There's a way to do it. There's a way to do it.
What was your learning curve in opening up this restaurant? You said that, hey, this is nothing compared to being in the carnival business, but I'm sure you had to learn some things that were like, oh, boy, I didn't expect that.
Well, that was a great question. See, now, there's a place here in Arizona called the Arizona Marketplace. Our friend said, listen, as long as you're going to spend the winter out here, why don't you see if you can get your cotton candy stand booked in there at the market? So I called the gentleman. He said, we really don't do that. I said, I'm sorry I wasted your time. He's like, hold on just a minute. I have a building on B Row. Would you be interested in renting it out? He said, we just do breakfast and lunch there. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. So we went out there and we worked 4 days a week, just doing a little breakfast, small lunch. And that's basically where I learned. And then Shirley would have to go out on the road in the end of January, so I had to stay with the kitchen till April. But there was a place in Yuma here, and it's called Penny's Diner. And I would go over to Penny's Diners when I wasn't working and sat at the counter, and I just watched them. And I asked questions. And I said, what are you doing there? And what are you doing there? And
little did they know that the competition was spying on them.
That's yes. Yeah.
But, you know, hey, it's your carnival mindset, right? You know, you got to do what you got to do.
You got to do, you know, go out there and do it. You got to hustle it up, you know. And
wow.
You only fail when you quit trying.
Did you ever send a thank you note or a bouquet of flowers to Penny's?
No, but that's a darn good. Yeah.
I think you should.
Absolutely.
Maybe a gift card, Amazon gift card or something like that.
Well, the manager out there did say he's going to start charging me tuition.
Congratulations on turning it around.
Thank you very much. And none of this would be possible without my crew. I mean, the staff that I have here, we got an awesome team. And the people that support us. Without them, I have to go back out on the road. And I don't ever want to do that. So I want to thank everybody that's listening, all the people that are here in Yuma, the foothills.
And Rick, welcome to the Dinerverse.
Thank you. It's been awesome.
As I mentioned earlier, about 97,000 people live full-time in Yuma, like Bill and his wife who live in an RV park. And let's just say, summers in Arizona aren't really for everyone.
It's warm.
What's the hottest temperature you've experienced here in Yuma?
About 120, 121 degrees.
That's dicey.
That is. But it's a dry heat.
There's a certain point where that doesn't matter anymore.
No.
What's it like living here year-round, and what kind of community is it?
I think it's a knit community. I think it sticks together. When the snowbirds get here, the only thing is the traffic gets horrendous. But with the elderly groups that are down here, it's a little bit more.
That's right.
You got to pay more attention because they don't realize that might be a stop sign, and they'll go through it.
That's interesting that you kind of are holding the elderly to task. Aren't you yourself elderly?
Yes. Yes, I am.
So you're calling yourself out a little bit.
Right.
But
I'm the young elderly.
A young elderly, okay. So I was doing some research about Yuma, and I understand there's a migrant crisis that's been played out in the news, where they're saying that up to 6,000 migrants a week have been coming through Mexico, crossing the border, trying to file for asylum papers with the Border Patrol here in Yuma. The mayor and some of the city council people are saying it's really causing a tremendous strain on the city services. Is that something you've seen and or experienced?
Haven't seen it other than the news or experienced it. The one thing I do know is that for the last year or so, at least 1,400 to 1,500 a day come across the border. But as soon as they come across, they're gathered and then shipped out right away. They're processed and shipped out. We don't see them.
And shipped out to where? Back to Mexico?
I think to other states.
So they ship them to Texas?
Yeah, they can ship them to Texas. They go to California. They go up to Kansas. They process them, and then they move them on through unmarked buses across this country.
Yuma is the number 3 entry point in the United States for migrants trying to get into the U.S.
Correct.
Number 1 is El Paso. Number 2 is Del Rio, Texas.
Yep.
Number 3 is Yuma, Arizona.
Right.
I was curious if this migrant crisis, as local officials in Yuma describe it, was also a problem across the border in Algodones, Mexico. Algodones is a very popular destination because of its affordable dental and optometry care, plus its super inexpensive prescription drugs compared to the cost of those same medicines in the U.S. So I crossed the border into the business district of Algodones and met a man standing next to a refrigerated cart. His name was Pepe. We're here on the streets of Algodones, Mexico with Pepe. And Pepe, what are you selling on the cart today?
I sell an ice cream.
And you're right here across from the line to get back into the United States at the border wall. What's the best-selling flavor here at the cart?
Rocky Road, pistachio, strawberry, and vanilla, and sea salt.
So I'm here to ask you about the migration of people from Central and South America trying to get into the United States. Over in Yuma, they're saying there's a border crisis, 6,000 immigrants crossing over per week. Do you see that here living on the Algodones side?
Nah, it used to be maybe like 3 or 4 months ago. There was a lot of immigration people coming from South America, but today you don't see none of that no more.
Are you familiar with a gap in the border wall just south of town where there's a big open gap?
Yeah, there is a gap over here close by the river, the Colorado River, between Arizona and Baja California. But they close it with semi-containers.
Oh, they filled it with containers.
With containers because there's part of the wall missing. I don't know, they didn't finish. There was not enough budget for that, but there's a big gap. But there's not a lot of immigration right now coming over to this side of town.
Have you ever thought about immigrating to the United States? Did you have a desire to?
I did one time, but I got deported from the U.S., so now I'm working here in Mexico.
You have any desire to try and go back?
Might be hard or not. I need to go to an immigration lawyer and fix my documents back. I have my daughters live in the U.S. They're U.S. citizens. My dad and my mom, they're residents from the U.S., so I had a residence alien card, but I lost it because I was being in trouble, But
do you mind if I ask what kind of trouble it was?
I was on exporting and transportation of marijuana a long time ago. But I mean, it was a stupid idea I did, but I was young, you know. Yeah. Now that I see a lot of people come over here, and I've been working for dental offices. Now I own a ice cream shop, so I mean, it's hard, you know. Yeah. I mean, you do that when you're a little kid and bad things happen, you know.
Has that misstep followed you the rest of your life as far as records and tracking you?
Yeah, I mean, it like I said, it's hard, you know. I mean, all my family is in the States.
You're the only one here?
Yeah, I'm the only one here, so I mean...
Do you live by yourself here in Algodones?
Yeah, I own a farm here. I miss my family, you know, and I miss the U.S. They didn't even give me a chance to see if I wanted to fight my papers. This was my first felony, so I mean, it was hard, you know. I lost my documents. And I regret that because now, once you grow, you know you did bad. I've been like more than 20 years deported here in Mexico, and all my family, my grandkids, they live in the States.
Are you even allowed to travel over and visit to see them?
No, not at all.
Do they come down to visit you?
Yeah, they come over and visit me. So, I mean, like right now, my dad had 2 heart attacks in January, and I couldn't even go to the ER to see him, the emergency room. So, I mean, my mom needs a kidney transplant. So, I mean, I can't even go over there and donate my mom a kidney, you know.
How do you feel about America's view on immigration into the United States? You know, do you have a position? Do you feel that it should be an open border, ease back and forth, or do you think the United States has a right to have some immigration policy for people to go in?
It's good to have a immigration policy. Why? Because, I mean, if I want to go across the border, I did that once. I went through immigration lawyers. I went through a background checkup. I mean, there's a lot of bad people. I mean, they want to go across. I mean, and there's good people, or they did bad, and now they want to go back. If I fix my papers, I would like to go back to the U.S.
Pepe graciously offered to show me this gap in the border wall where thousands of migrants could walk through each day to turn themselves into U.S. Border Patrol agents and file paperwork for asylum status in America. We walked about 6 blocks to the outskirts of town to see it.
Right there's where those containers used to be.
What are we looking at?
That's the fence.
And there's a big gap there in the fence, but there's no longer shipping containers. They're like big boulders.
Yeah, they moved them.
It's like the boulders they use to make an earthen dam of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big gap.
Yeah, this is the Colorado River.
Looks like from our vantage point here, standing on this little berm, we could see these rocks, but it looks like they could easily climb over those rocks because they're not as high as the fence. It's only about halfway up. But mostly people do it in the middle of the night, probably.
Yeah,
right?
Probably. Yeah, see, that's why I'm not even in here at nighttime.
So, Pepe, what happens if somebody comes here to try and get across the border into the United States, they don't make it, or they're stopped at the border wall, and they're stuck here in Algodones? What happens?
They got immigration people from Mexico and come and put them in facilities. So actually, there is a Mexican border patrol too, actually.
When you say facilities, is that like a holding area?
Yeah, holding area.
It's not a cell. It's not a jail.
They just put them in like houses, and then they ship them back to where they're originally from. So
if somebody's here from Guatemala or Honduras or somewhere in South America, Mexico will deport them as well.
Yeah, they deport them back to their hometowns.
Can they ask for asylum here in Mexico?
Yeah, they do, but they have to go through a same process. I mean,
so it's exactly the same on both sides.
And both sides is the same thing.
You have to declare asylum, go through a court process, and that could take years. Do you have people who kind of vanish and disappear in Mexico too and get lost?
Well, yeah, they do sometimes that. But I mean, this town is safe. I mean, they don't want no problems because of the tourists, so that's why they keep it very safe.
Yeah.
So I mean, sometimes, news, social medias, everything makes people like afraid of Mexico and all that stuff, the drug cartels and all that stuff. But here, nothing's bad. I mean, everything is good. I mean, you can see, you came over, you see a lot of people.
Well, and like you walked me, I'm a complete stranger, and you were so nice to walk me 6 blocks here to the border wall. So I thank you very, very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Appreciate it. And be safe and well, okay?
Yeah, I'll be safe.
And welcome to the Diniverse, my friend.
Thank you. Have a good day, my friend.
Back at Rick's Kitchen, I met Deb, another full-time resident of Yuma from Canada. And I asked her why she decided to stay.
I've always liked the weather. I like the sunshine coming from the wet coast of Canada. Being British Columbia, you have a very short summer period. So to come here and have good weather 12 months a year is really fantastic.
Oh, you know what that bell? You hear that bell?
I heard that bell.
You know what that bell means, right?
That bell means dinner's ready.
Actually, it means that you're happy with the service at Rick's Kitchen. Have you been here before?
I have been here, yes.
What do you like about it?
I like the quaintness, the hometown feel, the diner-ish feel of it all.
Right.
Yeah, it's just fun. Good people here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you do for a living in your career?
I was a pharmacy technician, 44 years. I also taught at the local community college. I taught the pharmacy technician program for 4 years. And I worked with big corporations and did a lot of training on site.
That's very interesting that you mention that you say you worked in pharmacy, because in Yuma, during the winter months, hundreds of thousands of retirees come down here, and they cross the border into Algodones, Mexico, to get cheap meds, because medications in the States, at least, are very, very expensive. What's your take on buying medications in Mexico, bringing them back in the United States, and saving money, yes? Are they getting quality drugs?
Today, I think they are. I think probably Mexico has regulated their drugs a bit better. When I was in the business, I've been retired for 8.5 years now, I would have said, no. People would ask me from Canada when they were traveling to Mexico, what if I bring medications back? Are they going to be as good? And we just couldn't give them an answer. So I would always, shrug my shoulders and not be able to really answer the question. And I personally probably wouldn't have done it, so I gave them my opinion. Now that I'm living in the United States, I've had the experience of going down to Algodones many, many times, and I've seen the qualities. I've done little studies in the pharmacies there, just in my head, and I really truly think that they're much more regulated than we think they are. So I wouldn't have a problem saying yes, go ahead and buy your meds in Mexico.
Have you purchased any medications in Mexico?
I have, yes.
Have they been effective?
Yes.
Why is there such a price disparity between the cost of medications in Mexico, the cost of medications in Canada, and the explosive cost in medicines here in the United States? Your opinion?
My opinion is big pharma. 90% of the meds here are made here. Canada is now buying their medications from China, India, and maybe Mexico. But I know for sure they're buying them from China and India. And there's huge labs over there. Is there a difference between buying them from India and China than Mexico? I don't think so. But the cost is hugely decreased. And Big Pharma here is still gouging the clients. And
would you say it's really gouging, or is it just the cost to produce medications just inherently more expensive in the States because we pay people more? We have, labor laws, we have unions, we have things like that add to the cost, whereas in India and other nations, they just do it dirt cheap.
Yes, absolutely. It's all of that package that makes the drugs so expensive. I know that I've just heard about a new law being passed that they are going to start regulating it even more than they are. So we shall see in the coming future.
Here in the United States.
Here in the United States. We'll have a look at that, because I just watched Biden and he was saying that they are absolutely going to put a hold on Big Pharma and get those drug prices down, especially for the seniors.
How can they do that? Like put a price cap on it?
They would have to price cap and comparably price things. It's going to be interesting to see what they do and how they do it.
I have a daughter who at the age of 21 came down with latent type 1 diabetes. The insulin costs are crazy.
Yes.
Thank God we have insurance. I can't imagine people trying to foot that bill without insurance, just basic insulin on a monthly basis to keep from dying.
Yes.
I did some research, and I understand the doctor who invented the insulin gave the patent away so this could be free for everybody.
Yes.
Has a life-saving drug free of charge for the world. how are these big pharma companies getting away with charging so much money for a patent that was given freely?
Yeah, I don't understand it. But again,
are they tweaking the formula in some way?
I don't think they can't tweak the formula, because then it would become another medication if they're tweaking formulas. They can't do that.
So it turns out big pharmaceutical companies can do it in a way that's not illegal. But first, in case you didn't know this, and I didn't, insulin was invented and patented by a Canadian doctor exactly 100 years ago. According to the big pharma watchdog group T1 International, the T1 referring to type 1 diabetes, before the 1920s, a diabetes diagnosis meant a death sentence for people all over the world. And the main treatment was starvation diets to prolong the inevitable. In 1920, a Canadian physician and scientist named Frederick Banting began working on an idea to isolate and extract insulin. He worked with a medical student named Charles Best and a chemist named James Collip. On January 23, 1923, Banting, Best, and Collip were awarded the American patents for insulin. They sold the patent to the University of Toronto for $1 each. And Banting notably said, quote, "Insulin does not belong to me. It belongs to the world." His desire was for everyone who needed access to it to have it. But in order for the insulin to be mass-produced and widely available, the pharmaceutical company Eli Lilly and Company were given the rights to do so. While this incredible advancement was intended as a gift from the discoverers, Eli Lilly and the two other major insulin producers, Sanofi in France and Novo Nordisk in Denmark, have turned insulin into profit machines. And here's the clincher. The cost to produce insulin is only $6 for a 10 milliliter vial.
In Canada, one vial, I've been out of the business for 8 years, but I can't imagine it's increased that much. One vial of insulin, 10 mils, which is maybe 2 weeks, is about $17 a vial versus $70 a vial here for the exact same medication and one of the more common insulins. I just don't understand it.
And really, their life is at risk because
Their life is at
and they are
risk.
making choices. Do I buy food, pay rent, or get insulin to keep me alive? Some
Yes.
people are in that situation.
Absolutely for diabetics. Looking at all the elderly, etc., the medications that they're taking are saving their lives as well. So it's the whole picture. It's a big picture, and something has to be done.
As a Canadian who spent many, many years professionally in Canada in the pharmaceutical field, when you look at the United States and our medical system and the way insurance kind of works, so just what's your take? What's your opinion? Is it totally effed up? Are we doing it wrong?
Obviously, I had insurance plans through my companies, so it never affected me. If you were using human resources or the welfare system, absolutely free of charge. All meds are free of charge.
Now, in Canada, they do have a universal medical health.
We have universal health care, so your doctor visits are paid for, totally. Premiums are very low in Canada. But since I've come down here and I'm on Medicare, it seems reasonable to me. Thank God I'm healthy. I've never had to pick up a prescription. I don't find that it's expensive as far as Medicare goes down here. It's when you start getting the medications and the hospital visits and that type of thing, and it's out of this world.
I recently saw Jim Carrey,
Right.
who's from Canada,
Yes.
on, I think, Bill Maher's show on HBO. And he was talking about debunking this idea, universal health care, you have to wait forever for a doctor, you have to wait forever to get an appointment if you need surgery, to see a surgeon, emergency room wait times are forever, and blah, blah, blah. He debunked all of that. He said growing up, his mom had some medical issues. She never had to wait to see a doctor. She got in to have some surgeries, relatively easily. There was never an issue. He said it's all bullshit. Is that your experience as well with the universal healthcare system in Canada?
No, it's not, because I worked in pharmacy and I saw it happening. Again, I'm very healthy, so I've never had a problem with that. But I do have and know people that have spent 6 months waiting to see a dermatologist, 6 months to see a cardiologist. By then They get so tired of the healthcare system, they just say to hell with it. And they don't go get taken care of, which then will produce another issue that they then again have to wait another 6 months to get into another specialist, and it's just kind of like on a rolling system, and it's very, very, very sad to see that happening. And like, I thank my lucky stars I've never had to deal with it personally, but I have seen it happen being in the business, and it's not a good thing.
That's a very interesting take, because there's a huge push here in the United States to turn over to a universal healthcare system.
Yes, there is, because of the cost factor, but they need to factor the wait times in. I'm seeing doctors up there not being paid for months and months. I was just reading an article of one of the doctors on Vancouver Island, up on the north end of the island, that submitted her billings for the last 3 months into the pharmacare system to get paid, and the government sent them all back to her saying none of these reasonings were worth paying for. So here she is resending them back. Now they're not going to have a doctor on the north end of the island because she says she's getting out of British Columbia.
Yeah, so she's shutting her practice.
She's shutting down her practice because she's not being paid.
When a country has a universal healthcare system such as Canada, do you have the option to still have private insurance that could pay your medical expenses and not use or not opt in to the federal healthcare system?
No, it's a mandate. You do have to have universal health care. But universal health care is now paid for by your employer if that's the case. And I was lucky enough to have that throughout my career. You don't get a bill if you call the ambulance. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I think it might cost a couple of $100s to have a baby, not a couple of thousand.
Right.
Or more here. I'm not sure what it would be.
Do you still have your Canadian citizenship?
I do, yes.
All right. So Canada has a parliamentary government, correct?
Yes.
So now you live here in the States. What do you think of American politics as opposed to Canadian politics and how it all works? What's your take on the American political system and our two-party democracy?
You know, I have permanent residency here. I'm not an American citizen, so I usually keep my lips zipped. I don't have voting rights, so therefore I feel that I don't really have a right to speak on that, and I just like to leave it at that.
But you have an opinion.
I have an opinion, but you know what?
It must not be a good one because you don't.
I just don't want to.
Final question: in Canada, what's the top beverage in Canada? Is it beer or whiskey?
I would say a little of both. I know there's a lot of whiskey drinkers up there. The Canadian Crown Royal is the number one choice. And good old Labatt's Blue would be the beer of choice.
I love Labatt's. Labatt's Blue is, when I want a beer, it's a go-to.
That's for sure. Or Kokanee, but they're made by Labatt's anyways.
All right.
Vancouver Island, we have our own brewing company, and it's called Lucky Lager. Every Friday night, everyone gets lucky.
Are Canadians really as nice as they are portrayed?
I think so. You know, our favorite word is sorry. Sorry?
Deb, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much for being on the Dinerverse podcast.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
That wraps up another episode of Across the Dinerverse. A huge thank you to former Carny, Rick, his wife Shirley, and everyone at Rick's Kitchen in Yuma, Arizona. I had the burger patty and eggs with rye toast. It was great, but people swear by Rick's meatloaf with mashed potatoes and gravy. A classic that totally delivers all the dietary needs from the Brown Food Group. Theme music by Keith Brock and the Kings Who Rock. Check him out at Keith Brock and the KingsWhoRock.com. And if you want to support the podcast, please visit patreon.com/Dinerverse. This has been Across the Dinerverse, searching for the heart and soul of America, one diner at a time. I'm John Murphy. What's your story?